Greetings, everyone. Thank you for visiting Reporting from the USA. Today, we're going to delve into an important development that highlights the significant decision that voters may have to make in the next election. There are serious worries and constitutional difficulties brought up by Donald Trump's growing anti-democratic language and his broad assertions of unfettered presidential power. Let's delve into this matter thoroughly. Trump, the Republican frontrunner, is arguing in various courts that he is exempt from ordinary laws and precedents because he is a former president. This will have far-reaching effects, even if he wins the presidency again in 2024, and it extends well beyond the legal disputes of his first term. It is possible that the very basis of U.S. governance, as stated in the Constitution, is in jeopardy. With his evident conviction that every executive order is fundamentally lawful, Trump's idea of an unbridled presidency sheds light on his potential power wielding in a second term. He goes against the conventional wisdom that presidents do not have monarchical powers by publicly stating his determination to exact personal revenge on political opponents if he is reelected. This impending danger to democratic standards and constitutional constraints on presidential authority is what is making the 2024 election such a watershed event in American history. It calls into doubt the basic assumptions of the American political system. Trump is utilizing the courts as a pivotal battlefield, as he is currently entangled in 4 criminal proceedings, some of which involve charges connected to his fraudulent assertions of electoral fraud during the 2020 campaign. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan's historic ruling rejecting his attempt to seize power was a significant setback. Trump may take the legal fight to the Supreme Court if he continues to postpone his trials until after the 2024 election. The court would be faced with a monumental decision over the extent of presidential power in decades if this course of action were to occur. Judgment by Judge Chutkan, in a recent broad ruling, rejected parts of Trump's reasoning, getting to the heart of the matter. That being commander-in-chief for 4 years did not give him the divine right to avoid criminal accountability that rules his fellow citizens. By reiterating that the president is subject to the same laws as any other citizen, this decision highlights the fundamental principle that all Americans are equal before the law. Attempting to construct a narrative in which he acts above the legal accountability that applies to others, Trump's vision of power frequently conflicts with this basic principle. The principle that the rule of law applies to everyone, regardless of rank or position, is foundational to American law and politics. Nevertheless, Trump persistently questions this notion. Efforts to hold Trump responsible for his conduct in the 2020 election have been delegitimized, continuing Trump's assault on American democracy. He fabricates a story that further damages faith in democracy by portraying these efforts as an attempt by the Biden administration to cheat in the 2024 election. Trump claimed that Joe Biden is the anti-democratic enemy during a recent campaign stop in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. This accusation is reflective of Trump's habit of blaming opponents for wrongdoings that he has committed, and it is also ridiculous in light of Trump's efforts to obstruct the orderly transition of power following the 2020 election. Despite mountainous evidence to the contrary, millions of Trump supporters continue to believe that the 2020 election was stolen because of Trump's extraordinary talent at creating fake realities. Challenges to the very basis of democracy, including Trump's reality distortion and the continuing legal reckoning. As the first Republican nominating race draws near, it will be important to closely monitor this complicated and ever-changing situation. His opponents are finding it difficult to respond to Trump's anti-democratic rhetoric and efforts to contest the 2020 election results. His detractors are hesitant to criticize Trump for fear of turning off God of the 30 trust people who are receptive to Trump's assertions, even if he is far ahead of him in the polls. This hesitation was on display in a noteworthy episode in Iowa involving Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Instead of critiquing Trump for trying to destroy democracy, DeSantis made it seem like the real problem was that Trump couldn't change the election results. The nuanced stance that many goop candidates are adopting in order to sidestep Trump's anti-democratic actions is reflected in this statement. As a whole, Trump's opponents appear to be trying to keep the proportion of GOP voters who back Trump's assertions from becoming even more divided, which would highlight the party's long-standing inability to control Trump's assaults on democracy. 1. The former Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney stands out from the crowd because she has spoken out against Trump. She recently said in an interview that Trump's attempt to revoke the 2020 election involved the new Republican House Speaker, Mike Johnson. She continued by saying that Cheney thought her party was unqualified to be in the majority in the House because of how it treated Trump. It has still to be determined how Trump's anti-democratic rhetoric will influence the GOP primaries and the general election, but these dynamics are becoming increasingly important in the changing political scene. On Sunday morning CBS, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney voiced her displeasure with the party's current trajectory. The former vice president's vociferous opponent, Cheney, said, "All the way to the core, I stand with the Republican Party's defining values and ideals. Unfortunately, modern Republicans have already made up their minds, and it wasn't to uphold the Constitution. The possibility of a Republican majority in January 2025, she said, may be dangerous." With the belief that Trump would be unfettered by the political system, Cheney continued by warning against the prospect of Trump's re-election for a second term. She expressed her dismay at the Republican Party's present trajectory, saying it was akin to a sleepwalking dictatorship in America. But Trump's loyal Senator Lindsey Graham downplayed Cheney's comments, implying that her position was motivated by hostility towards the president. Using a different legal framework, Graham stated that Trump's actions and outcomes were superior than those of President Biden and warned that the globe and the United States would be in danger if the current government remained in office for another 4 years. Some judges have criticized Trump for trying to use his presidency as a lifetime get-out-of-jail-free pass, and he is encountering resistance to this claim. The president is not immune to legal responsibility, Judge Chutkan stressed in a case involving the Capitol riot of January 6th. In a separate complaint in Fulton County, Georgia, attorneys representing Trump are claiming that their client is the target of an effort to tamper with the 2024 election. Using the Supremacy Clause as an argument, they say the trial can't happen until 2020 or perhaps 2029 if Trump is elected president. The complexity of Trump's post-presidential legal battles and the persistence of party differences are brought to light by these problems. Last Monday, Steve Sitto, who represents Donald Trump, contended that it would be considered as election interference to bring the trial of the leading Republican candidate for 2024 before the 2024 election. Sitto proposed delaying the trial until Trump's tenure ended if he were to regain the presidency. When asked about the unusual circumstances surrounding the trial of a former president and presidential contender, Barbara McQuaid spoke to Ali Velshi of Nissan Batsi and said that there are 4 criminal charges against Trump. She pointed out a possible weakness in Sitto's argument, but she wouldn't be shocked if the trial was postponed until after the vote in November 2024. McQuaid noted that Trump's interests might be undermined if the trial were to take place in 2029, as suggested by Sitto. She elaborated on how this schedule may encourage Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee to reevaluate the case and wrap up the trial in time for the 2024 election. The public's right to a fair trial might be endangered, says McQuaid, if we wait until 2029. This complex legal matter could affect when the trial is held and Trump's legal approach. We will closely monitor the development of this. Author Liz Cheney's memoir, Oath and Honor. A Memoir and a Warning details her time as a Republican representative for Wyoming and her strong opposition to Trump. She writes critically about the president and several of her former Republican colleagues in the book. The emotional state of Trump following the 2020 election is the subject of one of the most prominent assertions in her book. After losing to Joe Biden for president, Trump allegedly became upset and stopped eating, according to Cheney. Republican Representative Kevin McCarthy reportedly paid a visit to Trump at his Florida Lago estate, as she recounted it. After receiving reports from Trump's staff that the president was not eating, Cheney questioned McCarthy about his visit to Mar-a-Lago, expressing amazement that McCarthy had gone there. In accordance with passages made public by McCarthy allegedly told Trump's staff that they were worried about him and that he is truly depressed, according to extracts released by. The assertions were fiercely contested on Trump's own social network, yet he is now leading the Goa primaries. In an online post, he referred to Cheney as Crazy Liz and said that she had Trump derangement syndrome. Instead of being sad and not eating, Trump claimed he was furious and, worse, eating too much. He maintained that the purpose of McCarthy's visit was to rally the Republican Party behind him and win his support. Disagreements between Trump and Cheney have brought attention to the Republican Party's persistent divisions as members hold different accounts of what happened leading up to the 2020 election. Oath and Honor. A Memoir and a Warning, Liz Cheney's memoir, is scheduled for release on December 5th. She is one of 2 Republicans serving on the January 6th Select Committee. She discusses her life events, such as the Capitol attack and her vote to impeach President Trump, in her book. Not only did Cheney lose her congressional seat to current Republican Representative Harriet Hegeman, but her choice to cooperate with the committee and criticize Trump also caused a reaction within her party. According to the office of Kevin McCarthy, who responded to Cheney's book by suggesting that she might be insane, Cheney initially claimed to have Trump derangement syndrome, and now it seems to be McCarthy derangement syndrome as well. At the same time, Stephen Chung, a spokesperson for Trump, called Cheney a loser and said that she made up claims to sell books. Chung stated that among Republican candidates, Trump is the most formidable opponent against Joe Biden and the overwhelming favorite to become the party's nominee. Trump's threats to repeal the Constitution are addressed in Cheney's memoir as a cautionary tale. By electing a president in 2024, she says, the country will be deciding whether or not to keep the republic. It is feasible, according to Cheney, to maintain harmful policies for 4 years in office, but the nation cannot endure a president who is prepared to abolish the Constitution. Notice that Trump is presently embroiled in 3 lawsuits pertaining to the disturbance that occurred on January 6th. The cases allege that his statements at the Stop the Steal rally and his assertions of electoral fraud incited the rioters. The president strongly rejects the allegations and calls them a political witch hunt. The disputes about the influence of political divisions within the Republican Party are being stoked by the uproar surrounding Cheney's comments on Trump and the events of January 6th, which will be released as her memoirs. The president's immunity does not apply to a lifetime escape, according to U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan, who recently denied Trump's claim of immunity. OJ, oh no, cost-free Dale. During his interview with Miss MCS Jean Psaki, Neil Katyal wasted no time in slamming Trump's legal position, describing it as absolutely bogus. Based on his extensive background, which includes time spent representing the president before the Supreme Court, Katyal has stated that Trump's assertions lack a basis in constitutional standards. He likened Trump's interpretation to a philosophy similar to Richard Nixon's, and stressed that no scholar would back it. A strategy to postpone the legal processes rather than an honest interpretation of the Constitution is what Trump is arguing, says Katyal. He brought out the hypocrisy in Trump's statements, pointing out that Trump first said he couldn't be tried while in office, and now, as a candidate, The claim is about evading trial. According to Kajal, the legal team representing Donald Trump is effectively arguing that any day of the week ending in Y cannot be used for his trial. It is absurd. According to Kajal, the trial is expected to go forward as planned on March 4, 2024, and Trump's efforts to appeal the verdict will be unsuccessful. This is all part of the ongoing legal drama. How do you feel about Donald Trump's legal wiggle room? Is Neil Katyal's take on it as absurd as yours? Post your thoughts and feelings in the space provided. All eyes are on you now. Your support in the form of a like and a subscription is greatly appreciated. Also, feel free to watch some of our other videos. Coming up in the next video, man.